say thank you, be understanding, know that, we're doing our best. And as you said earlier, we're doing our best with less, sometimes a lot less, and trying to actually do more because you went out and you got another dog because you were lonely, and that's fine. We love it. But, just give those hugs.
Welcome to the Call the Vet Show, the podcast that helps pet parents understand and optimize the health of their furry family so they can live the full and happy life you want for them. And here's your host, veterinarian Dr. Alex Avery.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Call the Vet Show. If we've not met before, then my name is veterinarian Dr. Alex, and if you love your pets, if they're part of the family, welcome. You're definitely in the right place. This is the show for you, and make sure you hit that subscribe button on whatever app you're listening to this podcast episode on. For those of you who are long-time listeners, thank you to those of you who sent your messages of support and encouragement after last episode, which was a little bit of a rant about a lot of the anti-vet sentiment that is online and the messages about vets being greedy and ignorant and money hungry and all kinds of other rubbish, quite frankly. And that actually ties in to today's episode, because today I'm joined by Dr. Brian Borquin from the organisation Not One More Vet, or NOMV. And this organisation is all about supporting the entire veterinary team who unfortunately tragically suffer from some serious mental health issues, and the suicide statistics are absolutely shocking, which you'll hear in just a minute. Now, as you can imagine, this is a topic that's really close to my heart and the hearts of everyone who works within this industry. And I hope today will help raise awareness of some of the stresses and strains that your vets, your technicians, your veterinary support staff might be feeling. And I also hope that it will help give some encouragement and some practical tips that we can all do as pet parents to support the team that are there for you when you need them most. And by showing that support, you'll also be helping your veterinarian provide the best care for you and your furry family. So without further ado, here's the wonderful Dr. Brian Borquin.
Here's this episode's expert interview.
Dr. B, I'm really grateful that you've taken the time to come and talk to us today about a really important topic that's close to the heart of many vets and many people who work in the veterinary profession, because there's a silent kind of crisis going on within the veterinary profession that's been going on far too long, and that's suicide. So I wonder if you could give us an idea of what the scale of this problem is.
Sure. Hi. Thank you for having me here today. And I love that you said that this isn't a new problem. I've had people say, oh, is this something that just happened, or is it just the pandemic? Which obviously the pandemic made all frustrations and difficulties harder. But this has been a problem going on in the profession over 30 years. Some reports say that 1 in 6 veterinarians have thought about taking their life by suicide. And the most current studies done show anywhere from 2 to 5 times more likely than the general population to take their life by suicide. And that actually depends on what role. So when we first started NOMV, Not One More Vet, it was mainly a veterinary only platform. And since then, it's actually grown to include the entire veterinary profession, front desk technicians. So I will do my best to say veterinary profession when discussing these things. So for example, a male technician is 5 times more likely to take their life by death by suicide than myself as a male veterinarian. So the stats do vary a little bit, but I think we all can agree that they're far, far too high.
Yeah, I mean, that's ridiculous, isn't it? And it's, yeah, like you say, I mean, when I was kind of looking at getting into vet school, and I don't remember this because I was kind of a fresh-faced 17, 18-year-old when I went to speak to a family friend and with my parents, and they said, look, this is a great profession, but there is this mental health problem, and there is a higher risk of suicide. And, I've been practicing 15 years, so that would have been, 23 years ago that I'd have had that conversation. But yeah, as a fresh-faced youngster, it wasn't what I was focused on, and yeah, didn't remember, but of course my parents did. So yeah, why is this? Because I think there's a big, if you tell people that you're a vet and you're meeting someone, they go, oh, that's a wonderful thing. I wanted to be a vet. Most people did at some stage. I went to, I tried to apply and didn't get in, or, I didn't get the grades. So many people feel, and there are a number of reasons why it is the most fantastic profession, but why are vets suffering from this mental health crisis?
Sure. I think it's multifactorial, to be honest. I don't think there's any one thing that you can put your finger on. And I think it obviously varies from individual to individual. But I think, I kind of put into different buckets. The first bucket is I think we self-select for a group of overachievers for the most part. So as you said, I wanted to be a vet, but I couldn't get in, or the math was too tough. And so one, you're self-selecting for a group of overachievers who tend to be very empathetic, right? So it's one thing to talk to another human being and have empathy for them because they can say how they're feeling or where it hurts. We have to be a little bit more perceptive. We have to empathize with an animal that can't always communicate in words. I hurt. We know they hurt, but so I think you automatically are self-selecting for a group who maybe failure is not a possibility. Okay, just I look at myself like, oh my God, a B-. Like that level of just kind of self-motivation, and sometimes self-betrayal is self-select. So I think that's number one. Number two is what I call the James Herriot issue. And who didn't? I read them 3, 4, 5 times, and you got this picture of an amazing individual. And I'm not saying he wasn't, but there definitely were some liberties taken when writing on that book. When you actually talk to his family, they said he actually struggled with depression and was actually an introvert and didn't love big groups of people. But that wasn't the image you necessarily got, right? You got this idea of this one-man show who could do it all, and he would jump out of bed and be shirtless on the floor at 3 a.m. and that's what you did. And so I think we've all created this is the expectation. Now, I don't know that everyone else has an expectation, but that's our expectation. And, then there's the reality of being a vet, which is we are one of the only professions where we don't always practice what's ideal for the patient. There are times that we have to practice within the constraints. Actually, a lot of times we have to practice within the financial constraints of that situation. So I may know this is the best course of action and this will give you the best results. So take a group who already has, overachiever empathy, so high on their personality scale, and give them a situation that they can't do that. And then they're watching a patient suffer maybe unduly more than it needs to. And then, the other is our relationship with euthanasia. I know the veterinarians are really the only medical profession that we are legally given the option of helping our patients end their suffering through euthanasia. Well, one, that's a little bit of a mental challenge, right? So we've all kind of come to terms with that and what that it means. It's a viable treatment option for our patients. So at some point, and I'm going to say the God complex because I don't have a better term, but at some point you understand the taking of life. And you make peace with that. I can remember when I made peace with it. It doesn't mean you embrace it, but it means that there's a mental click that happens there. And I think that puts our profession in a very unique situation where euthanasia is an option. And, when you are suffering and you don't see any other way to take care of your pain, whatever that be, financial, emotional, physical, it comes to the top of the top of the options. Whereas I think probably for others that's not an issue. The other is financial. So I just mentioned financial pain. While it's really hard to get into vet school and there's less of them, and I can go on and on to make us sound really great, we get paid crap. We really truly do. Now, as a practice manager, my life is a practice owner. Things are a little better for me financially, but as I was 15 years, I had topped out. I topped out $120,000. That's where some doctors and dentists start. And so yet I don't get my loans aren't forgiven because I'm a veterinarian. They don't give me a release on my mortgage. all my costs are the same, yet I'm making this much compared to my colleagues. And that's tough. And that's tough because I know people that are coming out of school now, sometimes with $500,000 in loans. How are you ever going to pay that off? Like, so that and I'm not saying that we knew what we signed up to some extent, but there's one thing when you're in that auditorium and you sign up every time, yep, loans. And then the day of graduation, when they're like, well, this is what you actually are going to pay back. And this is what it is with interest. And you're like, holy cow, maybe I shouldn't have taken that 3-weekend trip to where, So, I think there's a reality. And when you look at the age where some of these decisions are made, I can look back at that now and say, wow, I made some bad choices. But at that age, my brain was barely even developed to have that. That sounds silly, but that's the reality of the situation is you are making lifelong financial decisions when you're in your early 20s. I can tell you lots of other things I did in my early 20s that weren't great decisions. So that's a huge financial problem. And then, sadly, sometimes our clients actually contribute to this. So when I look at some of my MD friends who are covered by the huge hospital institutions they're in, they don't care if they get yelped because they're not going to yelp them. Yeah, I should pick on just Yelp, but these online social media platforms, social reputation. I'm a small business owner. First of all, they didn't teach me how to be a small business owner in college. Secondly, they definitely didn't tell me how to protect my reputation. So now I'm a veterinarian and I'm a small business owner. And now I have to be an online guru on how to manage my social reputation. So start adding some of that stuff together. And I think it does put us in a unique position where this does affect our profession profoundly.
Yeah, absolutely. That's an amazing summary of an incredibly difficult and, like you say, multifactorial. And it's I guess it's very easy to come across as, we whine about this or we whine about that, vets aren't paid very much and, we're on a good salary, but the disconnect there is the loans, and $500,000. Yeah, that's crazy. It seems to get higher every year. I think, it was 200,000 that people were talking about a few years ago, 300,000 I've, heard as a common figure. But yeah, it's just crazy. And it goes back to, I guess, when I was, a bright-eyed youngster thinking about the profession, and you don't think about that. You're so laser focused on, I'm going to be a vet, I'm going to get into vet school, I'm going to get through this. Everything else is just, yep, that's fine. It's just, collateral, if you like. And you've got no idea of what life in the real world is like, just from a point of view of being an adult and paying your bills and getting a mortgage and, having a partner and all that kind of thing, let alone the realities of life. Yeah, in the profession. Kind of going back to what you said at the beginning about kind of watching patients suffer. I think that's a really well phrased a point, because we often, I think, there's a disconnect between our values and sometimes our clients' values. So we'll see the client who comes in and they want the best care and they can afford the best care. You've then got the client who would like the best care but can't afford it, and we work with them. And I'm at peace with that personally, and I think that's part of the art of being a vet, is to work within these limitations. Certainly where I am, insurance isn't really taken up and we're limited with referral options and things. But then we've got our clients who, they bring in their old cat, their old dog, who has been clearly suffering for a long, long time. And it kind of breaks your heart. And I think you've almost got to harden yourself up to the fact that you can't care more than the client does for their pet. But there's a real, you go through a real roller coaster of emotions, don't you?
Yeah. And I think when you look at some of the stories of some of the people who shared with us and Navi and through some of the you see this over and over again. It's that you end up personally get involved. There are times where, I go in there and I'm helping a pet say goodbye. And I know that this woman's story, right? I know that her husband has passed, and this is her last connection to him. And you wonder, will she make it? And so all of that, add all that, and I'm a younger clinic. We've been open for 7 years, so we don't do many euthanasias. I say, well, I'm a great vet. So, but the reality is we just don't have the aging population. I had a young doctor who is coming on board. And she said she's sometimes doing 3 or 4 a day. And so multiplied by that, by all the people and the stories and the pain and we sometimes say, when a client comes in, remember that this is their worst day ever. But what they don't realize is we see everyone's worst day ever over and over and over and over and over again. And I'm in general practice, so it's not as bad for me. But if you're an emergency room vet, or you're in the country where there's not referral institutions, and you're it or that's it, like that emotional turmoil and just it's hard. It's hard. And people think we play with puppies all day, and there's a lot of puppy playing going on. Don't think there's not, but they don't know what happens in between those appointments. And that's the I think that's part of the NAMV mission, besides being a platform for veterinarians to support each other, is now to educate the public. So when you come in and you're yelling at me because I couldn't get your dog in with its ear itch that's been going on for 4 weeks the day you want, well, no, but that's your concern. But there's 20 other people trying to do that same thing. And just to educate the public, and I get it. When when my baby's hurt, it all stops. But maybe just asking people just to take a moment and realize that as a whole, we're doing this because it's what we love doing. But your pet's not the only one. That there's other, and sometimes the pet's a lot sicker. So that's the other part of this platform, is to help educate the public how they can be more supportive of their vets and help them out, so we can keep doing what we're meant to do.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, I guess you spoke at the beginning, people wondering if it was just a pandemic problem. But I imagine the pandemic's made things worse for a number of reasons. There's shortage of vets. There's vet staff, vet technicians. I imagine, like, nurses here, we can't get really well trained nurses. They just don't exist. People are leaving the profession. They're putting, we're working in small teams. Maybe it's been split for a while. That may be coming back to normal. But we've got to put a line in the sand of where actually, if we try and do too much, then we can't look after any pets at all, can we?
Right. I mean, we're having, for the first time I've ever seen, I've been practicing 20 years, referral hospitals saying we're closed to emergencies. Like, what is that? Like, what do you, like, that just boggles my mind. I'm in Boston. I'm in a metropolitan area, and the local, we're not taking emergencies. We're one of the few clinics, because I do have 3 clinics, and I can kind of do this, what's that called? The shell game of moving people around. And there's still times if you call with a healthy pet, I think we're down to a 2-week wait time. It's sick appointments. We're saying call the morning of and see what get cancels. And that's a hardship too, because you don't want to turn away a sick pet, let alone if it's someone you understand and their family. And yeah, it's people don't get it. It's like, wow, aren't you rolling in the dough? Like that, 2 to 5 million brand new pets. Well, we don't have 2 to 5 million brand new staff members or vets, and you can't travel as well internationally and domestically. And you're right. I mean, 2 years is the average now for how long a vet tech will stay in the profession before they bounce into something that's more lucrative or less damaging to their emotion, their emotional stability.
Or probably both.
Yeah, exactly. Often both.
Yeah. And I guess we've the clinics I've worked at, I've always kind of maybe secretly prided ourselves on the fact that we are able to see people pretty much as soon as they call us. We're always able to squeeze things in. So that added, we can't see you for 2 weeks. That's adding stress, because you feel like you're letting people down who are relying on you. And it's not necessarily the pet, because okay, it's a routine thing. They're going to be fine, but you feel like you're letting your clients down.
That's back to our overachiever.
It is. Yeah. I mean,
level of empathy, right? Yeah, like it's harder on us. And, no one got into veterinary medicine to get rich, right? Most of us did it because we do have a strong connection. I love animals. And you learn very quickly that it's not always about the animals, but at the core, it is. It's because we love the animals, or we love what animals do for people. And to postpone care or not be able to give care, like, that's just hard. And we've seen it. We've also seen the financial struggles. Part of NAMV is we have a grant program where we give emergency loans to people who are in need. We used up our whole budget in June. In June, we'd used up our year's budget. Now, fortunately, through Race Around the World and a few other, events, some really good sponsors, we've got more money for grants. So we're not saying they're not there, but it's just, it's a hard time. And when you can't pay, it sounds almost ludicrous, but if your car doesn't work or you can't get time to get your car fixed, you can't go to work. If you don't go to work, you don't get paid. If you don't get, and so sometimes just that little lifeline being like, let us make your car payment for you. Or like, we'll pay for a loaner while that one's in the shop so you can get to work. They're really small. I mean, they're small lifts, but sometimes it's all you need to give you a little more light at the end of the tunnel. And that's what we're about.
Yeah. Fantastic. So with that, I guess with that in mind, and part of, everything is educating the clients and saying, and what I also am aware of is when you jump online and there's, the forums, there's a lot of, it's us versus them, it's people have been having their best time ever in the pandemic because they're in one way, I should say, not in every way, but because the clients aren't in the building. And some vets have loved that. Now, when we've been in lockdown here, I've hated it because actually for me, one of my big joys is making those relationships, building those relationships with the clients and not being able to chat face to face, and the communication problems that I've found with that. I hated it, but other people have loved it. So I think there's a lot of, blaming clients maybe, or it comes across as that, which is, we've spoken about all of those different aspects that contribute to this problem, but it's definitely one, and it's probably the minority, or it definitely is the minority of clients that ruin it for the majority. Right. Most of it are lovely people. But what can everyone listening to this do to make a difference, to support their vet, to spread the word? What kind of some action steps that they can take?
Sure. That's a great question. And it falls into a couple of different categories. So, one, you're absolutely right. One sour face can really just ruin everything. And that's because of the amplification of social media. You're not the, I don't know what, I'm bad with phrases, but whatever, the squire who's yelling in the courtyard, like that's not it anymore. You're not out there with your little megaphone. I mean, you put something up there and you amplify it and you have followers. And especially if it's a story that from one side appears like there was good and evil. Yeah. And sadly, in that story, the veterinarian is evil, what a veterinarian is evil. We're just not capable of it. But mistakes can happen is to not jump on that bandwagon, right? Because we all know, look at any story, your friends, your kids, there's two sides to every story. And, usually the truth is somewhere in the middle. And so we just ask, number one is for clients or just the general public, don't jump on that bandwagon. You're never, so you can't usually get the facts, because most veterinarians, if they're following our pseudo HIPAA rules, or at least our ethical rules, you're not going to share the details of that relationship, that procedure, what really happened, because usually we hold ourselves to a higher standard. So one, the vet being quiet about it doesn't necessarily mean they're hiding something. They're just taking, and you're never going to win on one of these like social media fights. So, we've all been taught, stay out of it. So, don't jump on that bandwagon. If you've got a vet who you have had a good experience with, don't just wait till things go bad, or if you go to a restaurant and you don't like the clam chowder, like say that you like the salad. And so the same thing is that, you can help your veterinarian. I say, have you hugged your veterinarian today? Which you couldn't do during COVID, but you can give them a social media hug and go on there and give them a shout out. Because we're not huge entities, right? This isn't like I call Peloton and say, hey, my pedal fell off. This is a small business. And when you attack them online, like you don't know what you're doing. And often, I've got 50 other mouths to feed. So, even if you don't like me, like when you attack my business, you're hurting all these other people who may have had nothing to do with it. So that's kind of the don't. What's the do? So the do is, right, we want to say positive things. So do those social media hugs, like bring cookies into the practice, say thank you, be understanding, know that, we're doing our best. And as you said earlier, we're doing our best with less, sometimes a lot less, and trying to actually do more because you went out and you got another dog because you were lonely, and that's fine. We love it. But, just give those hugs. So number two is you can volunteer. You can help raise money for Not One More Vet, NAMBI. Currently, we're doing Race Around the World, where we are sponsoring, actually Boston Veterinary Clinic is a platinum sponsor, where you can help us. You can donate money to us. You can just donate money by going to NAMBI.org and following the prompts for donations. And I'll tell you, we're a 501(c), so it means it's tax deductible. And I'll tell you, I'm a board member, and this is how much money, for people who can't see, I'm holding up zero. We don't get paid. So this isn't going to give me new shoes. The money that we raise is actually going to the people who need it. We're also about to launch a few new platforms. Lifeboat is a way to actually, in a more immediate set someone up during a time of conflict or emotional turmoil and give them a peer group that's helping them through that. These will be trained volunteers because we know that, yes, there are times when veterinarians can help other veterinarians or veterinary professions, and then there's times that you need more than that. So donations go to Lifeboat, and then they also go to things like this. Like, there are times that we go to speak to other student groups for other organizations, so that helps pay for speaker fees sometimes. But the big thing is actually the grant program. I mean, really, that's our by far our largest bucket to help, is people who are in crisis that we can help them financially, whether it be food, wheels, whatever the case may be. So those are the kind of the do areas. And just keep hugging your vet and the vet staff. I keep saying vet, but that's vet, etc. So smile at that front desk, because like I say, I have it easy. Right. Yeah. The front desk, those are front warriors, right? Or I say front desk, it could be on the phone. We ask so much of our customer relations service specialists. They're the ones trying to figure out if it's an emergency. When can I get you in? And then they have to go ask the vet, and then they have to come back to you. I mean, they're wearing so many hats. And so I just always say, be nice to them, buy them a coffee, bring in donuts, cupcakes, whatever the case may be. Be kind to the whole staff, because we've been working really hard. None of us have caught up on Netflix. We've been working really hard for a long time, and we'd appreciate that. And to those who have been saying thank you. I'm pointing to a group that maybe has been less gracious, but there are people who have done that, who do bring in the donuts and who say, hey, what can we do to help? And hey, you know what? My puppy can wait till next week. I see you're struggling here. So there are those people, and they're the ones that bring smiles to our face, and the puppies.
Yeah. And the puppies, of course. But yeah, I mean, it just takes a small word sometimes, and a short note, and it makes you feel that you've been recognized for the work that you're doing, and clearly we get paid for the work that we're doing as well, but that kind of feeds our soul, if you like, that small gesture of thanks, and it really makes a huge difference. And you're right, our support staff, the work they do is amazing, and sometimes, and unfortunately it's maybe too often than it should be, is they are on the receiving end of a horrendous amount of abuse or just a bit of an attitude, and I see this, people will come into my consult room and they will be as nice as pie, but we know what's gone on, and we recognize that, and it's just we're not saying, I guess, as well, don't complain if something goes wrong, then there are avenues to pursue, but be an adult about it. Don't just jump online, because that's what we all remember and we all read.
Exactly. And just we are huge into, because, and I'm sure you found this, 99.99% of the time, it's a communication error. Like, one person thought something, or they thought this and that. And, so if you break that down, it fixes almost everything. And then it becomes a learning moment. I mean, that's the other thing too, is 20 years in, I still see stuff. I'm like, oh, I could have done that better. Yeah. So then it becomes a learning moment, so you can become a better practitioner, a better listener, a better doctor, a better friend, if the case may be. And so we really welcome. I don't think there's been there's been a couple reviews, but for the most part, there's something there that I can glean from every single one. Or just call me ahead of time. We can talk it out, and then it's not into that arena.
Yeah.
So
yeah. We're all just people at the end of the day, and we've all got the same feelings and the same struggles.
Oh, I know. I was going to say, you were saying that the notes. I actually have a little binder that I keep with notes that people have sent me for those. Yeah. So these things really do make, when you're having a really glum day and you kind of need a reminder, I could just sell the whole thing. Why am I doing this? And you're like, oh yeah. Oh, I remember that case. It just kind of turns that frown upside down. So those things really do matter. I mean, I still keep mine, and whether it be a real folder or an email folder, you click through those and you're like, oh, okay, that's pretty cute. I mean, and we're so lucky. We have so many people on Instagram who, little Charlie was there today, his favorite place. And, it still makes me grin that I know that I'm making a difference. So those things really, they do help. They brighten up your day. It makes the staff feel good. I think it's a huge win for the staff. I share it with them. I'm like, oh, look, little Charlie had a good day today. And, it's something that takes a client, 2 minutes. I mean, no, they're faster than me, probably a minute to post that. And, it can add smiles all around for the rest of the day.
Yeah. Fantastic. Dr. B, thank you so much for coming and sparing your wisdom with us and helping to spread the word and make a real difference among the profession and the vets, the technicians, the front of house staff. It's just so important. And they're doing their job for love at the end of the day, and it's so important that we look after ourselves as vets and we help our clients look after the vets. So thanks so much for the work that you do.
Helping your pet live the happy, healthy life they deserve.
So I hope that's lifted the lid on some of the less savoury and less well-known aspects of working in the veterinary profession. And it's not just veterinarians, it's technicians, it's nurses, it's our receptionists, our other support staff. They're all under the pump at the moment, but this is a problem that's been going on far longer, as we discussed. So absolutely do what Dr. B recommends. Go out there and give your vet a hug, virtual or otherwise. If you doubt how important a simple note, a simple card of thanks is, I've also still got a folder of cards that I've received throughout my career going back 15 years. And if I go and look in there, I can find cards from those very first years that still sustain me today. And I still remember those clients, those pets, those cases that I was dealing with. And certainly when things have been a little bit tough, they do help to feed the soul and feed the enthusiasm to keep on doing what we love doing. And I'll actually post a photo or two of those over on Instagram, where you can find me at Our Pets Health. So I'd love to see you over there. I'd love to hear what you think. And please, 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 as well as thanking your vet, being a support to them so that they can concentrate on doing what they love to do and what they are passionate about, which is helping you and your furry family. Please share this episode, spread this message far and wide. And even if that only makes a difference to one veterinary professional, we can consider it a job very well done and very much worthwhile. But for now, that's it from me. I'm veterinarian Dr. Alex, and this is the Call the Vet show, because they're family.
That's it for this episode of the Call the Vet show. Be sure to visit callthevet.org to join the conversation, access the show notes, and discover our fantastic bonus content. We'll see you next time.